Om. How about a little bit of audience participation? Just try this. Just try going Om. Right. How did that feel? What was going through your mind when you were doing that, or was your focus entirely on that? Did you feel a sort of vibration going inside you? That's just something I thought I'd throw in there. But we'll get on to the main topic. And it's something that repeats over and over again, or at least it could do if people are in control of their emotions and don't allow those belief systems you've got to defend something actually erupt out into violence. But assuming that all parties involved can get round the table and talk. It's a beautiful song. It's very inspired. It's very artistic. It's a song by a group called Adam and the Ants. It's no coincidence. Adam was the first man. And this was in the first incarnation of Adam and the Ants with the original band. And it's a song called Table Talk. And the lyrics go, and it's an excuse to sort of exercise the vocal cords here. Don't like your stare or your arm in the air. It's just table talk. And your style was so brash with that silly moustache, but it was just table talk. Oh, what a square with your diagonal hair. It was just table talk. And the love of his life, too close to become a wife. Ooh, and I said to Gelly, how do you do table talk? And this is what she said. Love, 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 yeah. She says love 4 times and yeah. I'm going to put a link in the description to a video that has been put with that song, which is a 50-50. It tells you half the story. This comes back to Teardrop Explodes, the group The Teardrop Explodes, with a song that says, repeats over and over until you realise it's just a story. So, was he good or was he bad? Who are we talking about here? Well, if you haven't looked at the video link already, your style was so brash with that silly moustache. Let's, I think most people can agree to some level of perception, some angle of light, that you can see that this world would seem to be upside down, back to front, crazy, doing things the opposite way. So there was a joke, was if your feet smell and your nose runs, what are you? And the punchline was, you're upside down. So by extension of that, because this is all in thought, it's all going on in the cranium, which is another word for Calvary. Oh, Mr. Churchill, can you stop the cavalry? That's completely thrown my train of thought, as it does. Yes, the teardrop explodes. Well, tears are normally from sadness, or they're a release, and when that teardrop explodes, it's like a flood. Let's have a think. How else can we explain this? Yes, was he good or was he bad? the death of this girl came close to saving the world from his table talk. What do we know about this guy? Was he good? Was he bad? I'd say a bit of an anagram of his name. He was Aloof. And if we do similar with the surname, we get Lit Her. Because there was a divorce, there was a marriage, but there was no issue in this story. The love of his life, too close to become a wife, was because it was his niece. This was Uncle Aloof. Can't have that, not in the public eye. And also a huge, I would suggest, a way of ensuring that the puppet performs as the puppet master requires. There's been a lot of speculation, and it raises its head every now and again. Was Aloof good or bad? It's a perfect example of the duality of this reality, because it would depend on your perspective, and even within that there is a duality to the duality. Duality has a duality in itself. That's why you've got a 4. Who wants to be a millionaire? Well, you can phone a friend and you can get their opinion. You can ask the audience and get all their opinions, the general consensus. Consensus. You can take a 50-50. Ultimately, the decision will always be yours anyway. But with a 50-50, you take away 2 wrong answers. Therefore, there are 3 wrong answers and 1 right answer. The 4 is the door, always. But Gelly, the niece, a very clever little play here, because you couldn't have the nephew, because you've basically got Osiris, Set and Horus, this 3, but obviously there has to be a 4th involved to create the sun. But so it's flipped over, and you get a niece, which is nice. And then you bring in an expression with that kind of destructive theatre, raising to the ground, a levelling, an evening, because the evening, the destruction and levelling out, will precede the mourning that would follow, the grief that comes after that. But the Eva was brown. Well, if you look at it from an aerial, a higher perspective of the ground, well, if it's just brown, it's soil. It's not got anything growing in it. It's not green. It's desolate. So there would be no issue, which, as far as I know with that story, there was no issue. So what raises its head every now and again was he good or was he bad? There is the perception of taking away control of banking organisations and such like, which would appear he's a good guy. There's also the mainstream story, which I don't even need to go into, involves the magic number 6 always. But Lit Her comes into this. It's highlighting her, divine feminine. Can you imagine, or can you think of a particular group, static in the attic channel calls them the Greys, that follow a maternal line? Lit Her. Something else that comes into this, I've been doing bird watching, not physical birds, but this particular bird. One moment. This particular bird is an eagle, and I looked up on just a straightforward internet search, do eagles return to the same nest? And according to this article, the eagle will return to the same nest over and over. If it finds a nest that, shall we say, is profitable, it will build up that nest. So it will keep using the same nests. Those nests remain in the same places. The eagle will get its claws in. Here's something interesting. If we take the 20th of July as the date, so 20, and July is actually 5th month in astrology, so 2 and 5 would make 7, but if we take it as the 7th month, it makes 9. So there's a divine, and a number of divine, there's a number of completion. So if we take the year 1944, which I would imagine was, with all your chiefs of staffs and your adjutants and whatever, all there in this building, and you all sit down around a table, it's table talk. And I would imagine the outcome of that, the decision was made that we'll see this through to the end, no surrender, no capitulation. We will see it through to the very end. Consider the whole world, and the message is a reflection, because you need to internalize this. It's a brief case that was placed downside. It's something that has to come in through the soul. Anyway, if we fast forward to 1969, because the events in 1944, that particular eagle was starting to go into a descent. So if we go forward to 1969, the commentary from one of the 3 astronauts is the eagle has started its descent with the moon landings. You could say it's like, let's put on the Hamlet, Shakespeare's Hamlet. Now in this version we will play it out in Tudor costumes. In this version we'll play it out and they'll be wearing 20th century clothing, men in suits and ties with briefcases and things. But it's the same story dressed up in a slightly different setting. So you could also say setting, Seth, the uncle that can't marry the niece. So the uncle, this aloof uncle, there would be like a, shall we say, a brother who is out of the equation, is in the unseen, shall we say. Can't be seen, but can be felt and is implied. Anyway, yeah. So there's in certain religious practices, there's a cube placed over the third eye. So we're in an upside down world, and consider the world as reflection. So what you're looking at on that video is yourself reflected back. So for example, if I was to shave and just leave a little bit of the moustache, I would create a sort of square, that silly moustache, which you could say is like a black cube. So what I would suggest is, it's revealed to you and it's right under your nose and you can't even see it. Was he good, was he bad? Well, it depends on your perspective. I would imagine if you're part of a world banking dynasty, very good. Now, where does the divorce come into this? The Lit Her. Excuse me. The eagle will build a nest. I would suggest that nest came about in 1948, the divorce of the NA from the ZI. And 48 is a 12. And of course, amongst the 12 was one that sold out for 30 pieces of silver. That you could also probably see reference to a lunar cycle of 30 days in that one as well. Lunar is associated with darkness. The expression lunatic, you'd be mad to go down this route. But was he good, was he bad? It's perspective. The answer is always yes and no in a duality. It's finding that true reflection, which you can do by looking at the externals, but then it requires doing the unthinkable. So imagine if we put this into an analogy in the physical material realm. You've thrown a load of boxes up in the attic and you need to find something. So you're rummaging, throwing boxes all over the place. It's cluttered, it's full of thoughts. It's about, the expression is like stilling of the mind, going into meditation, media. So it's sitting in the middle. That's the real media. Your medium. It's right between the two. Something you could do, and I feel it would be very prudent to do, is to build yourself an ark. It requires no physical labour as such. It requires no cutting down of any trees. The ark that I'm referring to, consider its measurements, 300 by 50 by 30. So you've got a 353 reference there. Now in the new story, the New Testament, Jesus, who's standing on the shore, so he's on solid ground, he knows what he's talking about. He says, cast your nets on the other side, 153 fishes. But here with the ark is 353. Why is it 353? Because it's referring to the two hemispheres of the brain and the middle path, the mind's eye that sits between. So it's the three, the Trinity. The five is the five senses, and then the other three refers to the mind, body, and soul. The fourth element that's hidden, that is a given, is the spirit. That is the Christ within. So the ark that you're building is not a physical vessel. The ark is like your skull, your Golgotha, your Calvary. You're building an ark inside yourself, and now you'll seal it. So this is the going into the closet, the confessional, and the only opening will be on the top because you're looking up. It's all going on within inside yourself. There's no external saviour in that story any more than there will be an external saviour. The only external saviour will be your physical body, yourself, your spirit elf that is contained within a physical body when you are in a physical reality. Unless you want to ghost your way about, of course. Talking of ghosts, here's something I'd like to pose for you. Now, assuming you could have sufficient funds to find out where every piece of land around the world, every claimed piece, who actually owns it, and if it happens to be an organisation, if you could then go in to find out particular names within that organisation, and you could do it with the two giants of the business world. One of them is BlackRock, the other one, Vanguard is the other one. And if you could find out and pinpoint it down to a name, we're going to call him Joe Blow. We could call him Aloof as well, actually, because even if you knew that name, and you could even get a photo fit, so you could put a face to a name, then what? What do you do then? Is this someone that you even know? Is this someone that's even appears on Facebook in memes and things? It's also easy to point to certain families and say it's them or it's this organisation or it's that secret society, but really who really knows, for a start? And even if you did know, what are you then going to do with that information? What course of action would you take with that information? If we're talking about accountability for orchestrations of things, for example, then what? Who are we to judge? I don't feel it would even need that. It would just need the spotlight and no place to hide, as it were. But here's another example of upside down world. The dumbest people are the first to get smart technology, but the smart people have this idea that they can go into dumbs. They may be dumbed down, it may become their seal, it may become their sort of prison, shall we say. Time will tell on that one. I see a pattern with things. There's so much scaremongering about what's going to happen on the surface and what goes on below the surface. But look at the pattern with the whole theme of spirituality. Is it not about transparency and openness? Nothing hidden. So would that blueprint not apply equally? Could this be the ultimate flip over, as it were? So the cube that was up here has now is right under your nose. Could it be that a shift of polarity in things? Let's give you a this USB, you spirit being, just sort of sums up this reality. Now, who's going to argue that this end is more important than this end? Or do you not see there's something that connects both? That's basically the table talk of this reality. It's all table talk. You can see it from so many angles, and you can argue a case. Seek and ye shall find has double meanings. If you are seeking externally, this reality will just keep presenting you things that is going to justify what you're looking for. But what about when you turn all this inwards? Think about the wire. The W is that magic symbol that I've spoken about before. W, I, R. So it's implying being. And it's E for energy. It's what's going across between your two hemispheres, between your conscious and your subconscious. It's the dialogue. But when this switches on, I'm going to end on this final note. Meditation. Now, straight away, many of you will straight away think of being in a relaxed and maybe doing breathing exercises, doing that Om, and bringing yourself out of alpha state into the beta state. Or is it the other way around? I forget. But anyway, it's changing, I think it's 26 pulses per second to 14. You're going from an 8 in an eternity, which is the thoughts going round and round in your head. That's what the orbiting is. It's the thoughts that keep going round and round in the head. So you're bringing it down to a 14, which is a double 7, which is a divine number. It's also a 5 because it's implied that it's to do with the physical 5 senses. Duality again, you see. But when you consider the fundamental part of meditation, it's the equivalent of going through into returning to the element of water in the way Rudolf Steiner explains it, that the old moon recapitulated, and then the element of earth came into the equation. So it's taking things back. So you're going into the sort of water phase. It's a baptism. Now, in certain religions, you have a full immersion. Now, that's the key word, the immersion. I'm mercy, I on. You're completely immersing yourself. So a meditation can even be something creative, like you're making a painting on you're using a brush on canvas, and you're creating, and you're so lost in what you're doing you lose track of time. You start separating yourself away from that. You can go into a book to a certain extent. Even with a film, you can get the expression is, I'm really into this. You can really get into a film. You can sort of almost become a character in the film, which is what is implied to it all. The world's a stage. There is a continuous enticement. It's referenced in a way in Revelations that I think a demon said, "Come and see." That's what all the devices and things. Notice they're backlighting. It's not natural lights. It's not illumination from above. The lighting is coming from the back, but it's still illumination. But it's a false light on a sort of scrying mirror. He says using one as well to record this, but there's a duality of it. It's seeing both sides. I don't perceive it as something as evil. I don't perceive it as something as good. I see it as a way of mediating the communication. Nothing has ever changed in this reality. It's just the stage set has been updated. The internet of today was the merchants and sea traders of yesterday. The stories that are communicated, the transactions, it's no different. The only difference is, at one time, if it was physical books, you could put them all on a bonfire, and at least you could say, we've got ash for nutrients to put in the soil. But now when it's in the age of technology, it's just click of a button. Overnight, it can be gone, not a trace. There's not even anything to give back to Earth out of it. Look at what the pictures, look at what the stories are revealed. You've got to go into the abyss. I thought of quite a sickening one, and I feel there is something in it. Nestle's Milky Bar, the young blonde boy with the glasses in the cowboy outfit, he always says, the Milky Bars are on me. Could the bar be representing those that cross the bar, and it's some sort of very unpleasant sort of ritual that is being inferred in that, but dressed up as its opposite, the land of milk and honey. So we're talking about something that's white and yellow. But if you combine those, let's flip this to a positive, because I don't want to even go any further into that. But it's going far enough into it, into the abyss, to see what could be in the negative, but then also saying, right, hey, if I can see the negative, what's its equivalent? If everything's a mirror. So what happens when you bring the white and the yellow together, the milk and the honey? When you reunify inside yourself, you create cream in this physical reality. If you mix white and yellow paint, you're going to get shades of cream. So you see the ray of Am, the I am in you. So on one little final thing that's just popped into my mind, often an expression with a child, maybe even spotted by another child doing something they shouldn't be doing, the expression will be because there's the U and the M. The M is the divine masculine, is what it represents, because it's outwardly seeking. It's going out of itself, and now it's up to no good. So it's been observed, and it's and it's just like a photon. Because that child that's doing no good has been seen, it stops what it's doing. It's just like the analogy of the photon in a way. But you take you, You make yourself whole. So it's no longer because the spotlight's on you because you've been found out for doing something you shouldn't be doing. It's now become because is on. It's finding the light inside yourself, which is the only real light, not this illumination, whether it's through the screen or natural light. It is still just illumination. See Ken Wheeler, Theora Apophasis channel. He explains that. I'm just reiterating it because it's a part of this reality, light, illumination, the duality of everything and how it's expressed, how words are compartmentalized and so on. So, yeah, the aloof, I would say, if we take the map of Europe and we talk in terms of central powers, the no surrender, sing it to the end, to the very end, to the bitter end, no matter what, is actually a reflection of showing a negative polarity for you to find the positive polarity of walking your spiritual path right to the end. Go to the end. It's something Neville Goddard says. Always go to the end. Remember the future, because you're a co-creator. Where is the creator? The creator is in hydrogen. It's hidden red one. It's element number one. There is only one. It's in everything. It's in you. It's in me. It's in these physical bodies. It's everywhere, and yet it is nowhere. These are just the personas for which the unified can experience what it's created. And you in turn can co-create. You can immerse. You can detach yourself from the external and bring yourself back to center. Anyway, I hope that helps address or highlights how a character and a story around a character can be used as a divisive tactic. Another one, and some of you may even be triggered by this, think of flat earth. Fe is also iron, so it's something very solid, it's very heavy. It represents pulling you downward like iron, and it also rusts as well. But flat, is that not what this guy Aloof is very central to in what happened? And you did, in many places, many towns and cities did get a raising, but they didn't actually go up anywhere, did they? Everything was brought down. It created, you could say, a flat earth. There is an element of that flat earth is basically like a new religion. It's a new age religion, basically. Don't get stuck on those stepping stones. If you walk in your path, it's like going across the coals. As I understand it, those that can walk across the hot coals, it's because they can detach, because they can immerse themselves and take themselves partly out of this reality. They can still be in this reality, but their feet aren't getting burnt. You notice they don't stop on those coals as well. So don't get stuck on any of what we could say are conspiracy theories and things like that either. It's like a chicken and an egg problem, and it's something I raised in a comment about the Mandela effect on Quantum of Conscience channel. And it comes back to seek and ye shall find. So ask yourself this: if you have experienced what you would call a Mandela effect, were you already seeking because you thought things in this reality don't make sense? I want to start researching, diving into this, because the stories don't add up. And then you had the experience of the Mandela effect. Or was a Mandela effect the thing that then sent you down this trajectory to seek things? Let me know in the comments, because it would be interesting to see which way round it is on this one, what the general consensus of this is, What is your experience? Which came first? Your seeking because things didn't make sense, or you experienced the Mandela effect? So I'll leave that to you, and hopefully that has helped clear the waters where there is mud over whether this person is good or bad. But remember, you've eaten from the tree of knowledge. Based on the information you have at the time, your perception of whether this guy was good or not. And I say he remains aloof. And in some form, you could say, still exists today, if the whole world is a reflection. But it's up to you what you think, what you feel. But I would say just look at the stage show, what is being presented, what costumes are being portrayed, what's really being said. Is it 353 or is it 153 or is it the same thing? The arc, well, I don't think I mentioned this, gives you, dimensions are in cubits. Well, a cubit is 18 inches. Well, 1 and 8 is 9. It's a completion. 144 is 9. It's a completion. 153 fishes. We've got 1, 5, and 3. We've still got 9 there as well. That's sort of by looking, but the things will then start coming anyway. More and more will just come. It will just follow you because you've taken an active step in seeking. Things will just keep coming to you. But just watch out for that eagle because it will swoop from above. It always sets itself up high. And then it will come down and it will get its claws in and it will return to its nest. And it does have many nests as well. The eagle still soars through the wind. It's a wind soar, you could say as well. It's a very prevalent symbol throughout perceived history and what it's associated with. But consider what it can be an archetype of. It can be an archetype of something good. It can be an archetype of something bad. But also see it's like as expressed with any bird, it's got 2 wings, but in the middle, that's what to really see, the nature of the eagle, what it's really doing in this reality. I know this has gone a little bit all over the place, but hopefully there's a few little ka-ching moments that have gone off in your head, and that will enrich you and help you to become a millionaire. Because you need to come out of, after the going from the earth to the water element with the meditation, you now then start needing to get to the delta and the theta states. So there's still the baptism of fire and there's still the air to go through as well. The air apparent, you could say. You'll know it because it will be revealed to you if you've taken those steps and you have immersed yourself, if you've been through that first baptism, that meditation, by immersing yourself and partly detaching from this reality, losing sense of time, going into your own world of creativity. So don't think meditation is, oh, I've got to still the mind, I've got to sit in this position. It's a state of being. That is the state in which you will always be, no matter what the external will try and convince you otherwise of. As always, unconditional love to you all. Don't forget, if you want a 3-card tarot card reading, Reiki healing, just a chat, things are bothering you, then details are in the description and it's on a donation only basis really. So, hope to hear from you in the comments, and oh, I suppose I ought to say everybody else does like, subscribe, and share, and all that works up to you. If you feel this will benefit someone I hadn't thought of seeing it in that way, then maybe show them. The choice is yours, it's your free will. Anyway, unconditional love to you all.